Welcome back to Light in the Battle. Today we talk about closure. Closure is something that you decide so that you can move forward. Light in the Battle is a podcast where we talk about neurodivergence, we talk about narcissistic abuse recovery, detaching emotionally for family court. I share about how I was able to turn my legal case around, raising an autistic kid, and all things that can occur together within families. You can find me on Facebook at Light in the Battle if you'd like to connect with me and see the thoughts that I share every now and then about those topics. I have a quick announcement to make. I'm going to go bi-weekly for these podcast episodes. Like many of you, I'm handling a lot in my personal life. There's my own ADHD day-to-day and keeping myself out of autistic burnout. There's my baby's PDA traits and trying to keep him functioning as best he can. There's the nonstop legal battle, the financial situation, etc. So I'm going to adjust the rhythm of the podcast to keep things sustainable. Season 2 was so great. I'm extremely proud of it. And it was a lot from how I structured it. It's very long. Each episode is 30 to 45 minutes. The fact that I covered the journey to emotional detachment from every possible angle, how much research went into it, all the interviews that I made with women privately to create the content, the work that goes into actually producing the content and promoting it. It was a little intense for season 2, and so to maintain the level of quality and depth to my content, I'm adjusting the rhythm of my podcast to bi-weekly. Here we're going to do a mini series that has to do with the mindset shifts that I encourage you to go through. Today we talk about closure. Next episode we'll talk about how we want to stop explaining ourselves. And then we'll talk about how we are allowed to enjoy a calm, safe life. Let's dive in. So today we talk about the concept of closure. A lot of us have been through or are still at a stage where we think we need closure to move forward. But if you're waiting for closure to move forward, you might be waiting forever, depending on what you're dealing with. Closure sounds nice in theory. It's what you think you need in order to move forward. It's when you'll finally understand where the other person was coming from, or maybe they'll even apologize or show some accountability, understand what they did to you. And you may even crave this even more if you're carrying CPTSD or PTSD, because you're trying to make sense cognitively of something that you're carrying in your body, in your nervous system. Sidebar, I'm going to point you to episodes 17 and 18 about PTSD and EMDR, which is the form of trauma therapy that worked for me. So closure can be that much more vital to someone who's carrying CPTSD. But in high conflict situations, especially after narcissistic abuse, you're not going to get that. You're not. The other person is not capable of giving it. In episode 20, we talked about the concept of self-verification for people with narcissistic traits. Just to give you more context as to why you will not get closure from someone with narcissistic traits and behaviors. Self-verification means that the brain tries to keep the outside world matching what it believes about itself. For people with narcissistic tendencies, the core belief is usually split. It's on one side, you've got I'm superior, I'm special, I'm entitled. And then on the other side, you'll have unconsciously, I'm defective, unlovable, or insignificant. And because that inner belief is so painful, the brain is going to work overtime to prove the outer story is true. So the superior, entitled, special belief that they have about themselves. And it's going to work overtime to hide the inner story about how I'm defective, unlovable, or insignificant. So these people end up seeking situations where others admire them, validate their superiority, and everything we've observed in our lives about these people. And if someone challenges this image by setting boundaries, by disagreeing, by becoming independent, that breaks the self-verification system, and the brain experiences this as threat. So you asking for closure is going to be experienced as a threat by the nervous system. And that's when you'll start seeing the usual attack, devalue, discard, gaslighting, punishing boundaries, etc. Because again, the brain is simply trying to keep the world aligned with the version of themselves that they can't tolerate. They're not going to be able to stay aligned with a version of themselves they can tolerate if you go in there asking them to own up to what they did and to explain themselves to you. You're the one who's always supposed to explain yourself to them in their eyes. Okay? Before I move on with the rest of the episode, please leave this show a 5-star review and follow the show, because this is what will push the content upwards in the algorithm on podcast platforms and make sure that more women that need this content will actually see it pop up. Thank you so much. So they are not capable of giving you closure. So your perception of this person needs to change. It's something you can control. An example I love using is, would you expect a cow to start barking? No, you wouldn't, because you know that a cow moos. So you stop expecting it to bark. It cannot bark. It never will. You let it moo away. The longer you wait for that cow to start barking, when it's not capable of barking, and so the longer you wait for closure from someone who isn't wired to provide that, the longer you stay tied to the other person, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and the longer you're unable to actually move forward with your life. So what's keeping you stuck? It's not the fact getting closure isn't what's going to help you move forward with your life. It's understanding that you will never get closure, and dropping it and leaving it alone. That's what will help you move forward with your life. The longer you keep thinking that maybe one day they'll get it or they'll admit it, the longer you keep pissing away your power in that situation, and the longer your life remains on hold. Okay? So just again, reclaim your power. It's closure is not something they give you. It's not something actually you need from them. It will never happen. And letting go of that need for closure is something that you decide. You decide that you don't need this person to give you closure, because you know they can't. Just like you decide to not expect a cow to start barking. You know she can't. That's it. I mean, it's a process to get there, but the theory is pretty simple. So my wish for you is you get to a point where you can say, okay, I understand what happened. I've done the research. Like all the victims of narcissistic abuse, I've done months and months and months of research on YouTube and other forms of social media, and I've become an expert at understanding narcissistic behaviors. So I understand what happened. I understand how this person is wired. I don't like any of it. I don't agree with any of it. And I accept that this is what happened and this is who they are. And then you stop going back. You stop rehashing and re-explaining and trying to be understood. And again, those ruminating tendencies that can be a symptom of PTSD. So that's why I mentioned that earlier. You may be carrying PTSD, which is keeping you in that loop of needing closure. So something to think about. So you stop that rumination loop. You stop explaining yourself, asking for the person to understand where you're coming from. you get to a point where you understand that them understanding you is actually not required, or even you understanding them, understanding why they did what they did. None of that is required for you to move forward with your life. This is a key part of surrender. Surrender, I talked about in episode 26. It's a key part of emotional detachment. That was my whole season 2. And letting go of the need for closure, it's a key part of trauma recovery. And it might go hand in hand with healing your PTSD or CPTSD. You don't actually need the story to end cleanly. You actually don't. Everything's a giant pile of crap, and it's messy, and it's all upside down, and it is what it is. That's your reality. Surrender to that. That it is what it is. You don't need things to end cleanly with a rational, reasonable conversation and pretty bows and hugs and kisses to move on with our lives, hopping in the poppy fields. Or no, it will never happen, and you actually do not need it. What you need to do is realize your power in your situation. Part of your power is to let the other person be who they are and to refocus on yourself and on moving your life forward. So you stop revisiting the story. That's my wish for you. In the next episode, we will be talking about how you stop explaining yourself. We'll go into a little more detail about this. And again, that will be in 2 weeks because I'm needing to space my episodes out a little bit so I can stay committed to the level of quality and depth of my content that I've produced in season 2. I've set the bar pretty high for myself. I want to stay at that level, so I'm spacing out my episodes now. Remember that you can find me on Facebook at Light in the Battle if you'd like to connect with me there. Thank you for tuning in today. We'll talk to you soon.